welcome back. Another episode, C-Suite Unfiltered with Mike Andes. How we doing today, sir?
Good, man. Good, man.
Doing good. Fantastic. Well, I know you had a new pretty big release with Copilot. Didn't know if you wanted to talk about that at all, which maybe we can get into that later. But I wanted to do kind of a Wednesday reading, if you will. So I found a very interesting thread on Twitter and thought, or X, excuse me, on X, the everything app. Everything's happening on X. That's the tagline. Uh, but I found this Twitter thread, and I don't even know who this person is, the person that posted it. They have a lot of followers. This post got a lot of interactions, but basically they were talking about small business. And I was like, well, this is a perfect topic for you to discuss. So I'm just going to start reading. And my thought process is I will read, and then maybe you just interject and give us your thoughts on where this person might be right, where this person might be wrong. And I wouldn't say anything in this thread is overly controversial, but it is very topical in terms of the kind of fad of buying small businesses, if you will, kind of the general get rich quick schemes that are out there nowadays. So here is what this first tweet of the thread is. Culturally, buying a small business is now squarely in the same category as flipping houses, multi-level marketing, and crypto, portrayed as a secret shortcut that will make you rich because you're smart enough to know it. If you're serious about buying a small business, you need to ask yourself, why is there an opportunity to make millions with little money or experience? What does that mean? What does that mean I'm actually getting paid for? And why is buying a small business kind of like buying an 18th century cargo ship? The first crucial understanding as a searcher is that buying a small business for 3 to 5x EBITDA means you're buying it cheap. The worst comparison is to look at where public companies are trading and then feel like you're getting a good deal. Small businesses aren't an asset that will spit off cash and go up in value. The best way to think about a small business is an 18th century cargo sail ship. If you sail in the right direction with the right crew, weather the storms, and maintain the ship, you can make a bunch of money. Buying the ship or owning the ship doesn't make any money. And just because the last captain made a bunch of money with the ship doesn't mean you will. I will pause there if you have initial reactions.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's much of a fad. It's really, really good TikTok clickbait. And so because it's really good TikTok and short, anything that works well in shorts, like whether it be crypto going way up, whether it be stock flipping, now buying small businesses, if it can make a good short, it becomes a fad because 10 million people can see it, 50 million people can see it. And so specifically the ones that are easy to run, quote unquote, which require no labors, AI ran is now the new thing.
Mhm.
AI made this business that makes me $1,000 per month passively. Like this is the new craze. And so yeah, anything that's trending well is usually something long term you're gonna steer away from.
Yeah, do you think that like and I'm just going to use her as an example. I'm not speaking to her character, but you think that Cody Sanchez is almost like a prime example of that? Like her kind of rise to fame was all around like, yeah, I flip like old laundromats and I flip old this, that, or the other type businesses. And her rise to fame, although successful and like what she shares about business, and she's very smart. Like, do you think that that is what's kind of started this trend, this fad, like Cody Sanchez and the like?
There's a whole bunch of them. Yeah, Cody Sanchez
Right.
is one of them. Because like I think that what does better on social media and from a view perspective is things that can reach the masses. So if you start talking about hiring people, you immediately eliminate like 80 to 90% of businesses that will even have more than 2 or 3 employees. And so when you actually talk about like things like a laundromat or a gas station or like a vending machine service where it can be operated by one person, it's much more wide mass market because the vast majority of people can do it because it's quote unquote passive. And so as soon as you include passivity, it's not even a matter of people wanting to do that. It's just the audience size on social media is larger. So it gets shared more often. If I did a short and I was like, my business made $1.4 million in revenue last year, but I hired a general manager, a regional manager, I have all these trucks, all these employees, I had to get this lease and all these other things. Now I just disqualified 99% of people from actually being able to do it. Versus if I say everyone can do it, because all you need to do is pay, buy an $800 vending machine and in passive, go touch it once a week and put in chips and drinks, then it makes the audience size larger. And so because the audience size is larger, it gets shared more often and it goes viral. And because it goes viral, then people see it and the people who really should not be going to business start doing it. So, and that's how you have a trend.
Yeah. Can I have a hand up moment, a moment of honesty? We're not gonna talk about the HQ building by any means, because people ask, when are you guys gonna have your headquarters done? But there was a thought, this is when you announce the HQ. All right, get some
I know
context here. That
exactly
was
what you're
like,
gonna say. You're gonna want a vending
yeah.
machine in the command center.
Exactly. Now the context was it was 3 years ago. I was still learning the game of business, right? And I was caught into these fads and different things, and I was like, maybe I'll pitch Mike on letting me own the vending machines at HQ. But obviously that pitch never happened, and we were past it. So I don't want to be made fun of by anyone in the comments. It was just a thought. 3 years ago, inexperiencedly, I didn't know much about the world. I was just trying to make a quick buck, getting caught up in the fad. But in terms of his analogy of the 18th century cargo ship, I kind of like it because it comes back to a lot of what we say at training for new owners at Augusta, and really a lot of what your content is about. Is about the person at the helm. It's about the leader. It's about the person driving the ship. Like, you can have the worst business, and someone who's a great leader can turn that business around, right? You have your whole turnaround series. You could have the best business and put in a really, really bad operator, or sell it to someone who really only cares about the money, doesn't care about the employees, the crew, the customers, whatever. And all of a sudden that business is in a horrible state. So that kind of analogy really stands out to me. How do you feel that kind of relates to home services? Because you've said a lot of times that the home service industry as a whole has been behind kind of the technology power curve. It's been lagging in a lot of different ways, and I feel like that analogy holds true with a lot of home service businesses.
Yeah, like I think to use the shipping analogy, it's like someone's like, well, all I have to do is I have to, go from Europe. I just start the engine, and a few days later, I wake up in New York and I'm good. When it's like, okay, you're going to be navigating icebergs, and as soon as you start seeing these icebergs, that's when knowledge, experience actually matters to the captain. Because yes, anyone can steer a boat. But when you really need experience is when you start navigating through ice and you start navigating around shallow waters and rocks, and there's lighthouses around you, and knowing depth charts and navigating on GPS and radioing in. And so, everyone can start, very few finish, because in between is lonely, like going across the ocean, as well as across the ocean, you will see small specks of ice, and only the experienced eye will know that below that small speck of ice is a massive iceberg that could sink your ship. And so
Mhm.
that's why so often of the times it is glossed over the in between part. It's like, hey, if you just start today, get your vending machine, great, and you're gonna make X amount per month, and they just skip the whole ocean in between. And all the icebergs and all the things like
Yeah.
navigating this and like, okay, so let's just play this out. Let's assume now you have 20 or 30 of these, or 50 or 100 of these vending machines. Are you going to constantly, for the rest of your career, be moving around chips and drinks? Probably don't want to do that. So what are you going to do? You're going to hire it out. Okay, great. You hire it out. Now your $6,000 a month just cut down to like $1,000 a month because you hired someone. Oh, and by the way, they're going to mix up the wrong inventory. They're going to forget. They're going to get sick. And so ultimately, every business becomes a people management company business, regardless of what industry as it grows. And so most people gloss over that part. Is like, okay, so let's play this out if it scales. And usually it becomes like any other business, which is managing people, managing expectation, managing customers. If you're in a service business or if you're in a product business, it ultimately leads back to the customer. And so, yes.
Yeah. Now I'll push back a little bit on that. I do agree with you. It is about managing people, but to go back to the analogy of like an 18th century ship versus a modern day ship, right? We're talking wooden hull, we're talking steel hull, we're talking sails, we're talking a diesel engine. You can effectively probably maintain a steel hulled boat much easier than a wooden hulled boat. You can also probably maintain large diesel engines with a smaller crew than a bunch of people to manage, manual sails, right? It'd be huge sails and ropes and cloth and all of that. So I agree with you. It is a people business, but if the business is built better, i.e., if the ship is made of steel and has diesel engines, more than likely you can probably run it with less people. Would you agree with that point?
Yes, but it still comes to a matter of like, okay, so if you scale this business, eventually you will have multiple captains. Eventually you'll have multiple crews. Eventually you'll need to start negotiating ports. And like, it always is a matter of scale. Like, yes, if you want to keep one boat, i.e., one business, then yes. But like, do you want to be doing this for the next 20 years, or are you going to try to get multiple locations? Are you going to have like diversify into other industries? If so, all the businesses start to look the same, which you have a general manager, i.e., captain of the boat, and then you have multiple boats, and then you need a port, like you need to create a port. Then you need to like have someone negotiating those port fees. So it ultimately always kind of looks the same if you scale it. I agree a lot with the premise that if you're going to have a vending machine or a car wash or whatever, and you're going to keep it like one boat, then yes, the industry that you pick is important because you just want it to be as simple and basic as possible. Now, do I think there's a moat around that? Not as much, because that's why when people say location, 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 the reason it's important to have a great location is because you have no other moat. Like if you have the best chicken wings, if you have the best steak, people will drive to you. But if you don't, if you have a mediocre product that has no moat around it, the only reason to go to that restaurant is because of the convenience of it and the location of it.
Mm.
Same thing with a car wash. Like if the car wash is not on a really good street, you're not going to drive one block extra to go to the car wash. And so everything revolves around location, 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 which now means you are at the mercy of a lease, a mortgage, a land developer, zoning requirements, etc. And so every business has risks. People like to gloss over the middle and make it look good because usually they're incentivized for people to start. And so they sell the outcome like this is what it's going to be. They talk about starting how easy it is, and they gloss over the in between part. And that's like even something like recently we started to share the item 19 of Augusta. We try to be very careful of, and I was like, hey, we have for the very first time showing what the end looks like after 3 years, and so like the part of like door calls is like, okay, just FYI, that was 3 years of pain, and it was very hard. It's not easy, and yes, there were people that started from zero and went to 2 million, but there were also people that failed. Like they got in the middle of the ocean and they drowned. They got drowned in the spring rush. They had too many leads. They gave up, like etc. So getting really
Mhm.
clear about that, I think, is important to give people an accurate depiction of what entrepreneurship is. Because painting a rosy picture is usually someone has an incentive, and so whether it be Cody, which I think she's great, or other people that it's like, what are you trying to sell me to get me to start? Because usually it's like, oh, you join my coaching program, join this course. And so I don't think those things are bad. I think everyone learns, even if you get in the middle of the ocean and you do drown, you figure out what route not to go next time. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I'd just be careful about anything that's taking off on social media because it is reaching the masses.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's where I was kind of wondering, using the Alex Hormozy phrase of "sell the vacation." At what point does selling the vacation almost become inauthentic, right? And if anyone's unaware of that analogy, basically, Alex is talking about in sales. If I said, "Hey, do you want to go to Hawaii?" Your obvious answer is yes. Great. So I'm going to sell you the white sand beaches. I'm going to sell you the Mai Tai. I'm going to sell you the warm, cool breeze, whatever. I'm going to sell you this amazing vacation. However, I'm not going to sell you the fact that you're going to have to go through TSA and then they're going to go through your luggage and you're going to get a middle seat on a plane. And oh, yeah, the plane's hot. And then they're going to lose your luggage. And then you're going to have to wait in a line to get an Uber. And then you're going to get to your hotel, right? Like, I'm not going to sell you all those steps. Those steps are necessary to get to Hawaii, but I just want to sell you Hawaii. So where's the balance of that becoming inauthentic, if you will, from the person that is selling?
Yeah, I think it becomes inauthentic when you don't share the satisfaction rating of the vacation after people have gone. So like, okay, so
Hmm.
great, you show me the vacation. Now here's the ratings and reviews of people that have gone on the vacation. Some are lower, some are higher, some are great, some are okay. And this is why we shared the item 19, because now instead of you just selling the vacation, you say, this is the destination. Like these are the numbers, these are the vetted numbers behind what the actual destination looks like. So instead of me having to sell you on the vacation, I'm just going to show you other people said about the vacation. Right. And so I think leaning on proof instead of making a bunch of promises is the key here. And so if these people were honest about the average amount of the amount of people who start vending machine business, for example, I'm just using that one. You could like
Yeah,
go down the list of like easy businesses that have popped up in
totally.
the past couple of years that are super popular. If you went through the list of like how many people actually make a living, like cut out 98% of people. Okay, out of the top 2% of people, they're making a living. How many of them have an employee versus them doing the job? Okay, cut that another 80% down. Okay, so we're talking about like a small fraction of a percent of people that started are successful and have scaled it. Okay, so if I'm a betting man and I have a 0.2% chance of actually making this work scaling it, do I want to take that option? So if I actually saw the numbers, if I saw the breakdown, okay, like the top 10%, the top 25%, the top 50%, this is like why the item 19 exists for a franchise. Is because like, we give a very clear depiction of what the end results look like. And so I think if the same was true for all these other businesses, people would be like, oh, so you mean that 95 plus percent of people will never get beyond one machine? Oh, like the vast majority of people within 12 months give up because they can't get their second location. Like these are the type of things to play out. And I think if every business opportunity came with an item 19, it'd be very telling when it comes to these. The same thing as like stock trading. It's like, okay,
Yep.
if we actually told everyone that you trying to beat the market is like 95% failure rate, do you think we'd be doing that? No, like no. We talk about like beating the man. Literally the name of the company is called Robinhood. Like these are the type of things that we build up when we actually just showed the data of the 10th percentile, 80th percentile, 20th percentile, 5th percentile. If you actually showed these numbers, people would have a different idea of the vacation and who's selling them the vacation. Because I actually think that item 19 for us, for example, puts less pressure on you selling the vacation instead of just saying these are the results of people that have gone on the vacation, and then they speak for themselves.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Well, jumping kind of back into this article here, or not this article, excuse me, this Twitter thread, and
Oh, can I
we'll just
say
see what else.
one thing
Yes.
real quick? This is why we don't show like rave reviews or like the best locations at Augusta. I don't show these on my YouTube channel because the reason that these other businesses have taken off so well, and we will be showing a few here more coming up with that are successful, but like I think I've shown one ever. And I think like two or three that have been struggling. The reason for that is because the reason that these videos pop off so well is because they're taking the 0.2% in the industry that are absolutely crushing it, that did scale it, and showing it as an example. And because that person did do well, they have what looks like a linear path to success. And so those do well on social media, but then everyone that tries to follow them, like 99% of them won't get anywhere close to that. And so we're just very careful about like, hey, I don't want to put this idea out there that like every single location makes $2 million, like a forest
Hmm.
within a year and a half or 2 years builds a $2 million business. That's rare. And so we make sure it's like clear, like that's the top 10%. Here's what the 50 percentile does. And so, there will be some of our first, like, hey, these are locations that have been successful and multiple units, etc. But I have also shared like
Hmm.
our lowest performing location. I have shown a very struggling location. And so I think that's the balance that I want to kind of do so that people don't have false expectations.
Yeah. Good. Cool. So going back to the start here, said so if we know the wealth creation isn't coming from buying an asset cheap and selling it at fair value, why would the market potentially give you millions of dollars if in only a few years? The short answer is headaches and risks. Consistently delivering high quality products and services to your customers is difficult and strenuous. Your employee didn't show up. That's your problem. Supplier delivered the wrong product. That's your problem. So you already knew where this thread was going, right? Insurance doubled because drivers in your area had a bunch of accidents. Your problem. The vast majority of money you can make in buying a small business is compensation for dealing with the headaches and the problems. The smaller reason you can make a bunch of money buying a small business is the risk. Your main character leaves and you can't pay for the machine you bought to service them. Your problem. Your best sales rep has to move their family. Your problem. Your equipment breaks down. Your problem. Running a small business is risky, and so part of the money you can make is for taking the risk that other people won't. So you basically already
Agreed.
said all that.
Yep.
Okay, we'll keep going. Notice how neither of the two reasons you can make money in small business is strategic advice, technology, branding, or anything else you can learn in an MBA. There is not enough margin in these businesses for advisors. You need to earn your money by contributing to the operations. Doesn't mean you are the one doing the work. It means at a minimum you are the backup anytime something goes wrong, and you better fit in fast or there goes a week of profits. The reason you can make a bunch of money buying a small business is because it requires skillfully executing day after day, dealing with all kinds of headaches while carrying all the risks. It's a path most people won't deal with. And so, similar to danger, pay for military or underwater welders, the market pays you a premium for dealing with all the risks and headaches. Obviously, business acumen and smarts help in improving operations, getting more efficient, and growing the business, but you won't get paid for that on a day to day basis. You need to steer the ship, manage the crew, and weather the storms. If at the end of 14-hour days you have the energy to improve the sales or find a better route, it will make your next day a little easier. Buying a small business just means you get to start with a bigger ship. You make money running the ship, not buying it. So that is that Twitter thread.
I like it. That's good. That's really good. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can share it with you, but yeah, I liked it kind of that the final phrase of like buying the ship doesn't make you money, running the ship does. And I think that people get excited about the opportunity of like business acquisitions or like, oh, I could buy that or I could do that or like, people get on biz buy sell or whatever it is. I do that sometimes. I'll just get on biz buy sell and I'm like, oh, that business is for sale, right? And then I'm just like start towing at the idea, but the business itself doesn't make money. It's the running of the business. And so basically, I like that he just reduced it to it's like if you're going to buy a small business, you now get all the headaches and the risk. However, there can be reward if you can weather all those storms.
Yeah, I think when it comes to buying businesses, we started to think about like buying real estate as if it has some sort of inherent value, and it doesn't. You're buying a cash flow creating machine unless you're buying IP. And so like a brand or some sort of technology. And so when it comes to these small businesses that are quote unquote so simple, you are buying a cash flowing machine. And so without the constant maintenance of that machine, hiring, fixing the problems, etc., there is no inherent value. Whereas with real estate, I buy it and I can do a bad job managing it. And somehow I wake up in 10 years and it's worth 50% more, simply because
Yeah.
demand for that is extremely refined. We can see everyone's prices, we can see what the market demands, and the cost of it continues to go up above that of inflation. Whereas, like, the cost of your business can go to zero. The cost of my house will not go to zero. Like, the likelihood is very, very, very low. Like, we would be either A, in massive economic turmoil, or B, like, some sort of rezoning thing in my area, something crazy. Whereas a business can go to zero. In fact, it can go to negative because it starts to suck money. And so
Hmm.
we start to treat these like cash flowing machines when they are not. They are, like you said, a ship that requires all of the attention and running. The cash flow is made in running the business, not buying it. Whereas with real estate, you technically can buy it, sit on it, not have any tenants, and it just goes up in value simply because demand for your product or service, quote unquote, your real estate goes up. Whereas with the business, no one cares if your business makes $0. And so you have to maintain that cash flow in order for the value of the business to be increased.
Hmm. Do you think not to get political? Louis going to get political here. Do you think that there are certain like regulations in place that would allow for the business owner to have more freedom and be less worried about risk? Like from your perspective, like you run a lot of different businesses. You've been involved in litigation at times. You've been involved with OSHA or this, that, or the other. So do you think that there's like regulatory issues that increase the level of risk or the threshold to be successful in business, or do you think it's more still just primarily on the operator?
As long as the rules of the game are the same for everyone, I don't see it as a unique advantage to have deregulation because, and trust me, I'm all for deregulation because it improves the overall GDP and output of the economy. However, in terms of quote unquote winning, if everyone's deregulation goes, if everyone has less regulation, I don't have any unique advantage. And so everyone else, there'll be more entrance to the marketplace, so more competitors. They will have less friction. The cost will come down, and so this is why people are saying like, "Hey, if we have the tariffs, but we do deregulation, we can counteract the inflation because like tariffs are inflationary, but deregulation is deflationary." Well, the same thing is true if I deregulate and make it super easy and there's no ocean. I can hire people and fire them tomorrow for a wrong reason and not worry about being like compliant and all this other stuff. Assume that, well, if that's for everyone, then everyone has that advantage. And so the real advantages in businesses are how do I find untapped opportunity that no one else can access. And that's going to come in the form of creative ideas. It's going to come in the form of better advertising, better branding, a better website that is better than my competition. If everyone's regulation comes down, then it's not necessarily going to help me beat them. It's going to make more entrance to the market. More people will get in. It'll drive my prices that I can charge down. The price expectation of the customer comes down. So I'm not necessarily if deregulation happens and it affects everyone. I'm looking for a unique differentiator that people
Mhm.
can't copy, and that's a moat. And deregulation, in my opinion, as a solo inside the system myself, I can't control the rules. I don't see that as any sort of moat that gives me differentiation.
Mhm. So, what are the moats that people should be looking to build now? Like right now, with whatever regulations there currently are, whatever technology is currently available, whatever trends that you see, like give the people some free advice. What are the moats they should be building?
Like a moat is something that takes a long time to build. Like if you're under siege from an enemy, you can't go build the moat. because the moat should have been started 3 years ago. It takes a long time to build. And so anything that looks like you can do it quickly doesn't have a moat. A moat is something that like many times technology, many times it's infrastructure. So like the moat around Amazon is the fact that now after 30, 40 years, they've built all these massive data centers. They built all of these distribution hubs. They have their own airlines. They have their own distribution in terms of last mile delivery. It'd be almost impossible to compete with them because they've been spending 30, 40 years of break even or losses to be able to get there. And so if you're like, I want to build the next big thing, great. Don't expect like you're tomorrow you're gonna flip the switch and make money. And so anything that takes a long time, this is like, for example, changing your compensation model, pay for performance, gives you a moat to be able to attract the best talent. Opening up your books and running the books in a way that you can actually do that without having lash back from your employees and giving profit sharing. That's a moat that is hard for a competitor to replicate because they don't have their numbers put together, because they aren't legal, because they completely are doing things behind the back of their customers or their employees all the time, so they can't open up the books. So doing things that are hard or difficult is the moat that gives your business protection. And so, they're doing things that are hard to replicate, for example, like with technology. That's like a big thing on my end that I'm thinking about. And like, how does like it's hard to replicate command center. Okay, great. It's hard to replicate having 1,000 locations. It's hard to replicate having 1,000 locations with command center with the software that we all control. So like vertical integration many times a moat against the competition. So the reason that Tesla wins against GM is because GM has to farm out a bazillion different suppliers, whereas Tesla does it all in house. And so the less suppliers you have and the more vertical integration you have, that's also a moat because it's hard to build things yourself. It's hard to do it yourself. And it's easier just to bring suppliers together and smash something together. But then you look at the cost of a Tesla versus the cost of a GM electric vehicle, and that's why like they're shutting down their, Ford and GM basically giving up on electric is because they can't produce at the same cost. So the moat of cost effectiveness came because of vertical integration. And so owning the technology, owning the supply chain, owning people, having people that are very, very hard to replicate in terms of technology and talent, also hard to replicate. So if you have the skill of training really good general managers, that is a huge moat because most people can't do that, and that is something that will take 2, 3, 4 years of you figuring out how do I manage these general managers. But once I figure that out, I can copy and paste it, and no one else can because they haven't learned the skill. So skill, technology, vertical integration, those are some of like the first thing that popped in my mind when it comes to moats, all of which take time.
Yeah, fair. So when we had the headquarters building, are we building a fence or a moat around it?
We were building an excavator to build moats in the future.
Yeah. We should bring back moats. That should be a new city zoning code. Instead of fences, we just do moats now. But anyways, no, that's good. That's good. That's good advice. And yeah, I think it's just like the dedication to the craft. If you want to build something that's going to last, it's going to take time. That's really what it comes down to. It's like time and execution. Like that's really kind of it. Plus capital usually, right? So like and maybe plus some analysis. But I feel like you could really sum it up to that. It's like, okay, have I analyzed the business? Do I have the capital to start the business? Can I execute on it? And can I put in the time necessary to build it? Okay, great. Then I can build this moat. Then I can build this machine. And one thing I remember you saying, this was years ago, but it's always stuck with me. You said, really, the goal in business is to build. If your business is a machine, I just want it to be a machine that I can put $1 in and I get $1.10 out. If I can build that, I'm going to put as many dollars into that machine as humanly possible because I know there's a guaranteed return on it. So it's like, can we do all those things, build that moat, and then build that machine that can last, time, if you will. So very cool. Well, do you want to talk at all about the Copilot update that you had? What has it been, a week and a half now, I believe, since the Copilot update came out? So lots of different changes and things, estimates, formatting, client portal. How did that go? And how's the team doing post that release?
Yeah, so it didn't seem as big as it was because on the front end, it mostly just changed the customer portal estimate side of things, like asking for estimate decline reasons. It just was a lot better design, like mobile looks really good, etc. So those have been good things. The data coming back to us has been really good about like we're able to save like 40% of people that are trying to decline. We're able to put them into either asking for a change request or accepting the estimate simply by the way that it's designed, like that workflow. So that's been really positive. Close rates are way up across the system. So that's all very good. But actually, the biggest change was actually the fact that we rebuilt payments. So the whole way that we interact with Stripe was rebuilt. And so there's been some hiccups this week in terms of making sure that everyone's card information came over because there's millions and millions of customers inside the system. And what had to happen is we rebuilt, like we created a migration to move all of the card information, all the bank information over to the new database. And so the new database allows you to see like the customer's name, their email, their address, everything. In the past, you could only see their email, and it was a way less secure form of payment storage, and so like it was just less secure. And so it was a huge security update. It was a huge migration of millions of customer records. And there was a percentage of them that didn't come across. Like even the past few days, we had to rerun migrations because what was happening is the two databases weren't matching up. One's like, hey, you have way more data around this transaction than we used to have, and I'm not going to come over. And so we had to like mend some of those fences to bring all the card information over. But ultimately, like it was a huge security update, huge database update around payments, which is a very, very touchy part of a very high risk. And so we will probably actually never release something this large again in one single release. It'll be more incremental. But we decided to do with the estimates and handling of deposits and payments and cards on file, we need to rebuild the entire payments infrastructure. And so now it's all in Node.js instead of PHP. And so we'll be going throughout like this year and like redoing piece by piece of the customer portal and then the actual CRM side of things. But it was a bigger release than everyone thought, and there was a few bumps this past week in terms of making sure everyone's payments came across, and it's been good so far, and yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. We're doing good compared to like last year where we were in bug hell. Like we're doing good, and so we're hiring a bunch more engineers. I think it's be good. So talk to me like 3 to 4 weeks because we're moving
Okay.
forward on the Field Force app, which is going to be really good, kind of a minimum viable
Sweet.
product of the actual native app, which will work offline and do a bunch of other cool stuff. And then we'll do version 2 of that, which will be actually really, really good. So yeah, there's a lot coming down the pipe.
Cool. I love that. So that's kind of what they're working on now is the field force side of things.
No, we're still working on feedback from the estimates release. So
Okay, great.
like I hate when people release stuff and it's like pretty good, but it's like, man, if you could just do these 2 or 3 other things, like, it'd be great. So there's a couple more things we're wanting to do inside the estimates based on feedback from members. So even today we have another webinar, just getting feedback, and then we'll release again, and then we'll move on to Field Force. Thing is, Field Force has always been working on like the designers. Now, once the designers pass it off to engineers, it becomes a different game. But some
Gotcha.
cool stuff that's coming down for even like the second version of the estimate portal or the estimates side of things that I'm looking forward to. So that's all very good. And it was just nice, like 14, 15 months of no releasing of big stuff like that, and then be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it was a crazy weekend of very, very long hours with the engineering team, and I'm proud of them. So they're awesome.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, shout out the Copilot team. That is really all I have for today. Shorter pod, but I know we're busy. So any not financial advice that you have for the people?
Hit me, dude. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All righty. So this is a screen grab. All right. This is from X from Twitter, but I really liked this quote. I don't know if it's their original quote or they're quoting someone else. So this is from Fran Walsh 73. No idea who this person is, but I just like this. They said, "Someone else's income doesn't affect your goals. Someone else's spending doesn't reduce your freedom, and someone else's wins don't mean you're losing." I like that.
Good stuff. I like it. I
Yeah,
like it.
just a nice
Okay.
little motivator.
Yeah. So my non-financial advice is not like advice because it's actually like a comment on what I'm doing, and I have not yet had enough conviction to say it's worth the cost. So
Okay.
I've been using Superhuman, which is an email app. I don't know if it's worth $40 a month. It's kind of expensive. But what I will say is it does a good job of determining what is needed to be seen and what does not. It has a lot of shortcuts, so it saves some time. But what's really good is the way it blocks emails. The way it blocks emails is fire. Like there's a whole bunch of AI built into it. Like so for example, instead of searching, like trying to find a specific flight, you could just be like, "Hey, when I flew into Boston last time, what day did I fly in?" You could ask it that. It'd go through your emails and find it. Like it's kind of
Oh,
cool
cool.
that way. But that's not like the time saving. The time savings is blocking people. The fact that you can block the domain, the fact that like there's a bunch of blocking capabilities that like I
Yeah.
love it for. And so I've been able to cut down my emails pretty dramatically over the past few weeks. So I'm not sold on it because $40 a month. kind of pricey. Also, don't like the fact that if you're managing multiple inboxes, it's a pain in the butt. You
Mm,
have to switch to different inboxes. Like you can't just keep it all like going into one spot.
yeah.
So there's a few limitations. I'm not necessarily sold on it, but even if I use it for a few months and completely like block every good user and like there's good filtering mechanisms, there's some pretty cool stuff. So I'll see if it's worth it. I'll report back in a month or two.
Good. All right. I'm happy to hear that. I know you said you gave me access to some stuff on Facebook recently, and Facebook's just been lighting up my email. Just like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I'm like, dude, please leave me alone. Like, I just want to log in. So yeah, that must be nice because yeah, you get a lot of emails as soon as you sign up for something or log into something. You're just on the email list. So I like that. Very cool. Well, I think that's the pod. Anything else? But otherwise, like and subscribe.